Welcome to another deep dive, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at a figure who's really captured my imagination. Swami Vivekananda.
Yes.
You've probably heard his name, connected with yoga and Vedanta,
Right.
but there's so much more to this guy.
Absolutely, yeah. He wasn't just a spiritual teacher,
Right.
but a social reformer,
Oh, wow.
a really powerful orator, and someone who truly bridged, I think, that gap between Eastern and Western thought in the late 19th century.
Yeah, it's so fascinating. And get this, even as a kid, this guy was going around asking everyone, have you seen God?
It's amazing.
Talk about an early starter.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because that constant questioning wasn't just childish curiosity.
Right.
It pointed to this deep yearning for direct spiritual experience, something that would really define his entire life.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit. He wasn't born Swami Vivekananda, was he?
No.
Right.
His birth name was Narendra Nath Datta, born in 1863 in Calcutta, India, a city that was a real melting pot of intellectual and cultural influences at the time.
Yeah, it was. So how did this kid from Calcutta become like a global spiritual figure? Did his upbringing play a role in that, do you think?
Definitely. His father was an attorney, had a really sharp intellect. His mother was deeply, deeply religious.
Oh, wow.
And so from a young age, he was really exposed to both Western logic and traditional Indian spirituality. And you can see how those influences are kind of woven throughout his later teachings, really.
It's interesting. Yeah, and I also read that he devoured both Western philosophy and traditional Indian thought.
Yeah.
That's quite a combination.
It is, and it speaks to his intellectual curiosity and a willingness to explore all different perspectives. He wasn't content with staying in one box.
Right.
He really wanted to understand the nature of reality from multiple angles.
Okay, so we have this intellectually gifted young man burning spiritual questions.
Yeah.
Was there a particular moment, a particular event that sparked his journey?
There was a pivotal encounter that changed everything, really. In 1881, he met a mystic named Sri Ramakrishna.
Ah, Ramakrishna.
Yeah.
I've heard the name, but I'm a bit fuzzy on the details. Can you give us a quick rundown?
Absolutely. So Sri Ramakrishna was a priest at a temple near Calcutta.
Okay.
But he wasn't your typical priest. He was known for his ecstatic visions and his really profound spiritual experiences, regardless of the religious tradition that he was practicing.
Wow.
People were drawn to his simplicity, his deep devotion, and really his ability to convey complex spiritual truths in a way that anyone could understand.
So what happened when these two met?
Yeah.
Was it like instant guru-disciple connection?
Well, it was actually more complicated than that. Initially, Naren, remember that was his birth name?
Right.
Naren was skeptical of Ramakrishna. Remember, he's very logical.
Yeah.
Questioning, young man. He wasn't going to blindly accept anyone as his guru.
Right.
But Ramakrishna saw something special in Naren, even in his doubts.
Wow. So how did this skeptical young man develop such deep devotion to Ramakrishna? What was their relationship really like?
Their relationship is a fascinating study in contrasts, really.
Oh.
Ramakrishna with his simple wisdom and ecstatic experiences.
Yeah.
Naren with his sharp intellect and relentless questioning. And it wasn't always easy, but through their interactions, something really profound began to shift within Naren.
So did he eventually accept him as his guru?
He did, and it was a turning point in his life. Ramakrishna saw Naren's potential for greatness not just as a spiritual seeker, but someone who could bring a message of unity and understanding to the world.
Wow.
He believed that Naren was the one who would carry his teachings beyond the confines of traditional Hinduism.
Wow. That's a lot of pressure to put on a young man. But clearly Ramakrishna saw something extraordinary in him.
He did. And those years spent with Ramakrishna were crucial.
Yeah.
They laid the foundation for everything that Vivekananda would later accomplish.
So what happened after Ramakrishna passed away? Did Naren immediately step into the role of spiritual leader?
Not quite. After Ramakrishna's death, Naren and a group of his fellow disciples, they took formal vows, became monks, and dedicated themselves to a life of spiritual practice and service.
Okay.
And it was then that he took the name Swami Vivekananda.
Oh, so that's how Swami Vivekananda was born. But he didn't just stay at the monastery.
He didn't. Here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
After Ramakrishna's passing, Vivekananda embarks on this journey that really changes the course of his life.
Okay.
He sets out to explore India, traveling extensively for several years. He wanted to experience the land, meet its people, understand the true state of his country.
And what did he find on his travels?
He encountered incredible diversity, different cultures, religions, ways of life, but he also witnessed firsthand the widespread poverty, social injustices, and challenges faced by ordinary people.
Yeah.
And these experiences had a profound impact on him, really fueling a passion for social reform that would become a key part of his message.
So his spiritual journey was intertwined with a deep sense of social responsibility.
Absolutely. He saw that interconnectedness of spiritual growth and societal well-being.
Yeah.
He believed that true spirituality wasn't just about personal liberation.
Right.
It was about uplifting humanity as a whole.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
But his journey takes him beyond India, right? He eventually ends up in America. How does that happen?
Well, that's a story in itself.
Okay, perfect. Let's save that for part 2 of our deep dive.
Huh.
I can't wait to hear how this monk from India ended up making waves on the world stage.
Yeah. So you're eager to hear how Swami Vivekananda ends up in America?
I am.
Well, picture this.
Yeah.
It's 1893.
Yeah.
And the world's Parliament of Religions is being held in Chicago.
Oh, wow.
This was a groundbreaking event.
Yep.
The first time that representatives from major world religions gathered to share their beliefs on a global stage.
It sounds like something out of a movie, like grand gathering of spiritual leaders from all corners of the globe.
It really was.
It must have been quite a scene.
It was, and right in the midst of it all,
Yeah.
you have this young unknown monk from India.
Okay.
He wasn't even initially scheduled to speak.
Oh, wow.
But fate, it seems, had other plans.
Now, I'm really intrigued. How did Vivekananda, a relatively unknown monk, end up, capturing the attention of the world at this prestigious event?
Well, it's a testament to his charisma, his intellect, and his ability to connect with people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
He spoke with such conviction, such passion, and such a profound understanding of both Eastern and Western thought that he captivated the audience.
I read somewhere that he received a 2-minute standing ovation after his very first speech. Is that true?
It is, and it wasn't just the length of the applause, but the sheer energy in the room. People were moved by his message of universal spirituality, his call for religious tolerance, and his eloquence in presenting the richness of Indian culture and philosophy.
So what exactly did he say in that speech?
Yeah.
What were the key points that resonated so deeply with the audience?
Well, he began with the now iconic words, "Sisters and Brothers of America."
Wow.
This simple greeting instantly broke down barriers and established a sense of connection with the audience.
Right.
And then he went on to challenge the notion of religious superiority, arguing that all religions are different paths leading to the same ultimate truth.
Mm-hmm.
He spoke about the beauty of Hinduism, but he also emphasized the need for respect and understanding between all faiths.
It sounds like he was way ahead of his time in advocating for interfaith dialogue and religious harmony.
He absolutely was. Remember, this was the late 19th century.
Yeah.
Colonialism was at its peak.
Right.
And the West often viewed Eastern cultures as inferior or primitive.
Yeah.
Vivekananda challenged those stereotypes head on, presenting a vision of India as a land of ancient wisdom and profound spirituality.
Did he talk about specific concepts from Hinduism or Vedanta philosophy?
He did.
Yeah.
And this is where his brilliance as a communicator really shines.
Okay.
He introduced concepts like Vedanta, yoga, and meditation in a way that was both accessible and insightful.
Right.
He explained, for instance, that Vedanta at its core is about the unity of all existence.
Okay.
That we are all part of the same divine reality.
That makes sense. It's easy to get lost in the complexities of different philosophies and religious doctrines. But the idea of underlying unity is something that can resonate with people from any background.
Exactly. And he also spoke about yoga, not just as a physical practice, but as a system for achieving self-realization and connecting with that inner divinity.
So he presented these ancient Indian practices and philosophies not as exotic curiosities, but as relevant and valuable tools for personal and spiritual growth, regardless of one's cultural background.
Precisely. And the audience was receptive.
Yeah.
They were hungry for a spirituality that went beyond dogma and ritual, something that spoke to the deeper yearnings of the human heart.
It's amazing to think how one person speaking at a particular moment in time can spark such a shift in perception. It's like he planted a seed that continues to grow to this day.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And that speech in Chicago was just the beginning.
Right.
Vivekananda went on to spend several years traveling and lecturing across the United States and Europe.
Wow.
He founded the Vedanta Society to spread his message and to provide a space for people to explore these ideas further.
So he became this unlikely spiritual ambassador, bringing Eastern wisdom to the West.
Mm-hmm.
Did he face any challenges or resistance along the way?
He did not. Everyone was receptive to his message. Some were skeptical.
Sure.
Some dismissed him as a charlatan.
Oh.
Others clung to their own religious biases.
It sounds like he was walking a tightrope trying to, bridge cultures
Yeah.
while staying true to his own tradition.
Yeah, it wasn't always easy.
Yeah.
But he remained committed to his vision of a world where different cultures and religions could coexist in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he stressed that true spirituality wasn't about converting people to a particular faith,
Right.
but about recognizing the inherent divinity within all beings.
Yeah.
He challenged both Eastern and Western audiences to look beyond their preconceptions and to embrace a more inclusive and understanding worldview.
It's inspiring to think about the courage and conviction it must have taken to challenge those deeply ingrained biases,
Right.
both within his own culture and in the West.
He certainly wasn't afraid to ruffle feathers,
Right.
but he believed that true progress required honest dialogue and a willingness to question assumptions.
So after several years abroad, did he eventually return to India?
He did in 1897.
Okay.
After spending almost 4 years in the West, Vivekananda returned to India.
And what was his focus when he came back? Did he continue his work as a spiritual teacher and lecturer?
He did, but his experiences abroad had deepened his commitment to social reform in India.
You mentioned earlier that his travels throughout India had exposed him to the widespread poverty and social injustices.
Yeah.
Did those experiences inform his approach to social reform?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He saw a direct connection between spiritual awakening and social progress.
Mm-hmm.
He believed that true spirituality wasn't just about personal enlightenment,
Right.
but about creating a more just and compassionate world.
So how did he put those beliefs into action?
Yeah.
Did he get involved in specific social movements or organizations?
He did. He established the Ramakrishna mission in 1897,
Okay.
named after his guru, Sri Ramakrishna.
What was the mission of this organization?
Yeah.
What kind of work did they do?
The Ramakrishna mission was dedicated to serving humanity, particularly in India.
Mhm.
They focused on providing education, healthcare, disaster relief, and spiritual guidance to those in need.
It sounds like a very practical and hands-on approach to spirituality.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about retreating from the world and meditating in a cave.
Right.
It was about actively engaging with society and working to alleviate suffering.
That's a great way to put it. Vivekananda believed that true spirituality should manifest in action, in service to others. He famously said, "Service to man is service to God."
I can see how that message would have resonated with people, particularly in a country struggling with poverty and social inequality.
Yeah.
He wasn't just offering abstract philosophical ideas.
Right.
He was providing a path for practical action and tangible change.
That's right. He empowered people to take charge of their own lives and to work together to create a better future.
Did he continue to write and lecture during this period?
He did.
Yeah.
In fact, some of his most influential works were written after his return to India.
Oh, wow.
Books like Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Karma Yoga.
Yeah, I've heard of those.
Yeah.
But I admit I haven't read them yet.
Sure.
Can you give us a glimpse into some of the key concepts he explored in those works? What were some of the core principles he emphasized?
Well, Raja Yoga, for instance, focuses on the practice of meditation and mental discipline as a path to self-realization. He explains how controlling the mind through techniques like meditation can help us overcome negative thoughts and emotions and tap into our inner potential.
That's really interesting. So it's not just about sitting in a lotus position and chanting.
Right.
It's about actively training the mind to achieve a higher state of awareness.
Exactly. And in Jnana Yoga, he explores the path of knowledge and discrimination, emphasizing the importance of critical thinking and self-inquiry as tools for spiritual growth. He challenges us to question our beliefs, to analyze our experiences, and to use our intellect to discern truth from illusion.
So it sounds like he's encouraging a very active and engaged approach to spirituality.
Right.
Not just blind faith or dogma.
That's right. He believed that true spirituality should empower us to think for ourselves, to question, to explore, and to ultimately arrive at our own understanding of truth.
And what about Karma Yoga?
Yeah.
What is the focus of that book?
Karma Yoga emphasizes the path of selfless service.
Okay.
He teaches that by acting without attachment to the fruits of our actions and dedicating our efforts to the well-being of others, we can purify our minds and progress on the spiritual path.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings and understanding that our actions have ripple effects both on ourselves and on the world around us.
It's amazing how he weaves together these different paths, meditation, knowledge, and selfless service, into a comprehensive approach to spiritual growth.
He saw them as complementary, not contradictory.
Right.
Each path offers a different way to access that same underlying truth.
Okay, so we've covered his early life, his journey to the West, his return to India, the establishment of the Ramakrishna mission, and his influential writings.
Yeah.
It's clear that Vivekananda led a remarkably impactful life.
He did.
But as with any historical figure, it's important to look at the full picture. Were there any aspects of his life or work that were controversial or problematic?
That's a great question. And while Vivekananda is widely admired for his message of unity and inclusivity, there are aspects of his work that have been subject to criticism and debate.
For example?
Well, some scholars point to certain passages in his writings that seem to contradict his public stance against the caste system. Well, he spoke out against the rigid social hierarchy and the discrimination inherent in the caste system. There are instances where he uses language that reinforces caste distinctions.
That's an important point. It's a reminder that even those we admire can have blind spots and hold views that reflect the prejudices of their time.
Exactly. It's important to approach historical figures with a critical eye, to acknowledge the complexities and contradictions, and to engage in honest conversations about their legacy.
So how do we reconcile those seemingly contradictory aspects of his work?
It's a challenging question, and there's no easy answer. Some argue that we should focus on the progressive aspects of his teachings. While others believe that we should critically examine the problematic elements in order to have a more nuanced understanding of his legacy.
I think both perspectives have merit.
Yeah.
It's about engaging with the past in a way that informs our present and guides our future. We can learn from the positive aspects of his work while also acknowledging the limitations and biases that were prevalent during his time.
I agree. It's about approaching history with humility and a willingness to engage with complexity. We can celebrate Vivekananda's contributions to spirituality, social justice, and interfaith dialogue, while also recognizing that his views were shaped by the context of his time.
It's about seeing the full picture, both the light and the shadow.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've delved into some of the complexities and challenges of understanding Vivekananda's legacy. Now, I'm curious, what would he think about the world today?
That's a fascinating question.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Let's explore that question in part 3 of our deep dive. So what do you think? What would Vivekananda think about the world today?
Well, given his deep concern for social justice, I think he'd be troubled by the widening gap between rich and poor, both within and between nations.
Right. And what about, the environmental crisis? He was a nature lover, right?
Absolutely. He saw that interconnectedness of all beings and the natural world. I think he'd be deeply saddened by the state of our planet. Deforestation, the pollution, climate change.
It's interesting to think about how he'd view our technological advancements. On the one hand, he was a strong advocate for using knowledge and technology for the betterment of humanity. But on the other hand, he also warned against becoming slaves to material progress.
That's a great point. He was very much about balance. Balancing material progress with spiritual growth. So while he might appreciate the ways technology can connect people and spread information, I think he'd also caution against the potential for technology to distract us from what truly matters. Our inner lives, our relationships, our connection to something larger than ourselves.
So maybe he'd be like, hey, use technology mindfully as a tool for positive change rather than letting it consume our lives.
Exactly. And I think he'd be particularly concerned about the impact of social media on our mental and emotional well-being. He emphasized the importance of cultivating inner peace and self-awareness. And I think he'd see the constant barrage of information and external validation as a major obstacle to achieving those states.
It's like you'd be saying, hey, don't get so caught up in the virtual world that you forget to nurture your own inner world.
Exactly. And I think he'd also be wary of the echo chambers that can form online.
Right.
Where people only interact with those who share their views. Remember, he was all about dialogue, bridging differences, expanding our perspectives through engagement with those who hold different beliefs.
Yeah. I think he would encourage us to step outside our comfort zones, both online and offline, to engage with different viewpoints, and to have those difficult conversations that can lead to greater understanding and growth.
Absolutely. You know, he wouldn't shy away from challenging us to confront our biases and to cultivate empathy and compassion for those who are different from us.
So while he might have some critiques of our modern world, I also think he'd be inspired by, the growing awareness of social justice issues.
Right.
The movements for equality and inclusion, and the increasing interest in mindfulness and spirituality.
I agree. He'd see those as signs of progress.
Yes.
As evidence that humanity is evolving toward a more just and compassionate world.
Right.
And he'd encourage us to keep pushing forward, to keep striving for a world where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
Well, you've given us a lot to ponder today as we wrap up our deep dive into the life and legacy of Swami Vivekananda. What's one key takeaway you'd like to leave our listener with?
What resonates most with me is his unwavering belief in the power of the individual to create positive change. He believed that we all have that potential for greatness.
Yeah.
Regardless of our background and circumstance. And, he urged us to arise, awake, to tap into our inner strength, and use our unique gifts to make a difference in the world.
It's a message that transcends time and cultures.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder that we're not just passive observers in this world, we're active participants, and we have a choice to embrace our potential.
Yeah.
Or to let it lie dormant.
I think he'd also remind us that the journey of self-discovery and service is ongoing. There's always more to learn, more to explore, and more ways to grow.
Right. It's not about reaching some final destination. It's about that continuous process of becoming.
Precisely. And I think, his greatest legacy is that he continues to inspire people around the world to embark on that journey, to awaken to their own potential, and to dedicate their lives to something larger than themselves.
This deep dive has truly been an enlightening experience.
It has.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your expertise with us.
It's been my pleasure.
To our listener, we encourage you to keep diving deeper, keep those curious minds engaged, and who knows, maybe you'll inspire the next generation of change makers. Until next time,